David Crandall from Fiesta Village Fun Park in California. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Matt and Josh. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. Hanging in there. Uh,
We still haven't figured out the right way to answer that.
exactly. David, thank you so much for joining us today on this COVID-19 video series that we're doing with Attraction Pros. So can you first of all tell us a little bit about your facility? And I know that you're making preparations to actually reopen, which is really, really exciting. So can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Of course. So I'm the general manager of Fiesta Village Family Fun Park, and we're about 12-acre little family fun center in Southern California, which is great for the weather right now. We've got some 80s and 90-degree temperatures, so it's been fantastic the last couple weeks. But we have a little bit of everything. We've got 5 carnival rides. We've got a giant miniature golf course, really one of the best landscaped and sprawling miniature golf courses in the area. We've got race cars, we have batting cages, we have roller skating, we have an outdoor roller skating facility, we have arcade, 2,400 square foot arcade, and we also have a laser tag arena and some water slides. So we've got just enough to give everybody a piece of something, and I don't think you could come here and not find something fun to do. There's a little bit of everything.
Right. David, can you tell us what it was like, the kind of moment of determining that you were ready to reopen? Can you walk us through kind of where the information came from? I'm assuming probably from the state to the county to the local level, and then kind of what was that flipping of the switch like from a decision standpoint?
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of that feel of how things are progressing in our area. The Inland Empire area of Los Angeles, we're about an hour or so east of LA. And from what we started to see with our culture and the folks that live in our area, people want to get out more. We're seeing a little bit more of that. And our county has started reopening. At one point, we had the full scale golf courses were closed, and the hiking trails and the parks and both the regional, the county, and the national parks were closed. And we started to see that loosen a little bit, and the opportunity for people to go out and explore the outdoors was opening up. And looking at what some of our outdoor attractions are, and some of that information coming out of the CDC about what this virus does when it's exposed to heat and to sunlight, really made it a great opportunity for us, with miniature golf being already kind of a socially distant activity anyway. You can really monitor and control that. And then also with our batting cages, being able to have somebody in a protected stall
Right.
for that's well over that 36 square feet gauge that we seem to be going off of. And then even with our roller skating rink, being able to socially distance on the roller skating rink is pretty simple. So looking at those attractions and really exploring, okay, what can we open? What is logistically reasonable for us? And when guests come to the park, what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to be outside. They've been cooped up inside all day or all month, and they've had enough of sitting maybe at a video game console and playing Xbox or playing PlayStation. So let's give them those outdoor activities, and let's offer some socially distant, controlled atmosphere options for people to come out and enjoy. And we had hoped that we could do it last weekend, but we saw some things coming with the county that they were still working with the state on a few of the protocols. And while we probably could have opened, we just decided, let's take it back 2 more weeks, go to the middle of the month. Let's see what our governor is releasing over by May 1st, because everything was supposed to come out right around there. And we saw some good news from the governor's office and from the state health board. And our county is actually going to the governor right now. They're in the middle of it, trying to loosen some of the restrictions to fit our county. because California, for those of you that have never been or seen California, we are incredibly diverse. There's counties that look like the Midwest in California, and then there's counties that are super dense and have tons of people in them. So the governor has been pretty supportive of the fact that, yes, California is a melting pot. We've got all these different things going on, and what works in one county doesn't necessarily work in another county. So we're definitely seeing some good things with our county on that end. Some of the other neighboring locales having a little bit harder challenge getting open, and a lot of that is also the pulse of the people. Who's ready to come out and have fun, and who just stay inside, don't go anywhere, don't talk to anybody, just stay inside. We're incredibly optimistic, and we've got a great staff that is ready to come back to work. They want to come back to work. I'm fielding phone calls and emails. Okay, let me know when we're ready. I'll be there first day. So it's great to see that our staff is encouraged and confident when they come back.
So David, I'm curious, you talk about your staff. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question was, it's one thing to bring the guests in, but you've also got staff in there that are, potentially going to be, in harm's way, if you look at it that way, right? They're going to be in an area where there's more people that could potentially be infected. And now they're working there, like a lot of the essential workers now. So you said that they're excited, they're enthused to come back to work. What new or different protocols do you have in place to help keep them safe?
All of them.
So, next question.
Well, the great thing kind of that's been a byproduct of this issue with the COVID-19 outbreak and the quarantines and the safer at home is what we're doing here. I mean, there's been a lot of conversations, 2 or 3 times a week. We're watching the webinars and we're on Zoom meetings, trying to gather as much information as possible so that we can provide a reduced risk to staff and guests. I mean, you're never going to get it to where it's zero. That's never going to happen. But you can reduce the risk, reduce the exposure, and make it an environment that your staff is confident. And if your staff is confident in what they're doing and they're projecting that, the guests are going to be supportive of that. If your staff isn't ready and they don't know what to do and they're flustered, the guests are going to immediately pick up on that, and you're going to get some negative feedback from that. Mm-hmm. So we've worked on putting together a lot of different procedures because of the variety of attractions that we have. You have to look at each microcosm of the park and say, okay, for batting cages, we need to be doing this. And for carnival rides, we need to be doing this. But for a super slide, it's different than a scrambler or a roller coaster or the tilt-a-whirl. I mean, there's all these little things that you're going to be doing differently depending on what ride it is for the touch points that you may have to sanitize. And during the day, one of the great things about Southern California is we have heat and we have sunshine. So a lot of the calls that we've seen and a lot of the reports coming out from the CDC is that sunlight is great. You don't have to sanitize the surfaces as often when you have that sunlight, which is great for us this time of year. If this would have happened in December, we'd be having a whole other conversation. And when it comes to the staff safety with the PPEs, wearing a protective mask while you're at the park as an employee, and then obviously encouraging that with our guests also. There's been a lot of conversations about whether or not you require it or you encourage it. Obviously, a lot of that is the delivery of your frontline people and how they approach those guests. You will have people that just don't want to put on a mask. I've seen it myself at grocery stores, and everybody kind of looks at them like, okay, you're weird. Why aren't you wearing a mask like everybody else? But we just have to manage that as customer service folks and have that conversation with them that, you know what, I'm sorry, I know you really don't want to wear a mask, but we're doing this for the protection of everybody around us, not just you. You may not know what you don't know you have, and this is just the protection of everybody. And we have lots of gloves. We actually got very lucky because before all of this happened, we got a big shipment in from Waxy. So we have plenty of gloves. We've got lots of sanitizers. Froggy Fogs was fantastic with the sanitizer that they put out, the hand sanitizer. So we were lucky enough to take advantage of that. I've got some other supply chains that came up to me that we were able to get lots of hand sanitizer and disinfectants. And it's been a great opportunity to think outside the box to get those things that we need, that just going to Cisco or US Foods, you may not be able to get them, or Waxy anymore. You've got to really look at those alternative methods and call in a favor to a friend if you have to, and hope for the best. But we were set up with the PPEs and the supply that we need to keep going until hopefully the supply chains return and things do get back to that new normal, I guess you could say.
Yeah. David, what are you doing from I would say, a marketing or communications standpoint? You've mentioned all of these additional measures and systems in place and all of the PPE. How are you now projecting this onto guests who have concern about whether it's going to FECs, coming to you, or just being out in public in general, or getting over that hump to say, you know what, we need to go to Fiesta Village because they're taking great care of us?
And that's a great question, because I think everybody's experiencing that right now. If you're in that same phase that we are, I saw Georgia is doing some parks opening in Georgia. We've had a few parks here in California, FECs, that have opened. If you're familiar with the Scandias, they opened up this week. The biggest thing we can do is inform our guests of what's going on. We do update our website about every week to 10 days on our COVID page, so that guests can see, okay, these are the measures we're taking. This is the information that's coming in. These are our projections. And these are the things that we're doing to mitigate risk. And we've, our website right now, on our COVID page, we've got kind of a 6-point outline of what we will be doing to create that safer environment. And then on our social media, we've been doing, the social media team is doing a fantastic job in communicating with our fans, both with just engagement posts, letting them know that we're still here. We had several discussions about being silent. Do we just turn off social media and not comment, not do anything, not post anything? And as I've seen other facilities do that, while it might have been what they had to do, you kind of want to see what they've got coming up, even if it's just, hey, we don't know where we're at right now, we're hoping in 3 weeks, a month, we'll be able to be open. Just something so that it kind of makes people feel better. So we've done the cutesy cat hanging out of a tree engagement post that everybody loves to see and that we like to get likes on. But then we've also done posts about how we're cleaning our race cars and showing people, okay, this is the process that we're going through. We're going to have some posts coming up starting the early part of next week on our sanitation practices. This is how we're sanitizing our laser tag vests or our golf clubs and our batting cages. And then also we've talked about, I've seen some great videos that people have put together where they're actually role playing and showing the guests, this is what it's like to walk through the park now. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see the 6-foot distancing marks on the ground. You're going to see different arrows pointing you in different directions that you may not have been exposed to before. And giving that education up front so that the people that can see it are a little bit better prepared when they come. Ultimately, you're going to have those folks that just kind of walking off the street because they see you're open and they didn't expect you to be open, and you might have to do a little education on site. But getting as much out there as possible so that those guests can see it and your fans can see it and your annual pass holders can see it, so that they know that you've done everything you can.
Yeah, David, I'm curious. I know you don't have the magic 8-ball, but I'm curious about your thoughts of some of the things that, we've sort of as an industry had to put in place because of this, that you see really as a positive, and maybe it's something we should have done all along, that you see really as a lasting technique that we can continue to use down the road.
Well, I think there are some of these procedures that, yes, in let's say 12 months, 18 months, they might just be out of sight, out of mind. Do we have to wear masks for the next 5 years of our lives? I hope not, but it does put an extra focus on the disinfecting and the sanitizing. Some staff, I'm not going to pick on the younger staff, but some of the younger generational staff, when you bring them in, they may not understand why you need to sanitize things a certain way, or why you have to keep an item in sanitizer, like a dish, or if you're cooking, you have to keep a dish in sanitizer fluid for so long so that it's effective. they're going to be more conscious of that. And I think it'll be a better experience because things will be cleaner, and that will carry on for years and years, because I think we will remember that. But the masks, I hope that one day we can look back at it on 4 or 5 months, 6 months of, okay, we had to wear a mask around, but we're okay now.
Yeah, and that really comes along with kind of the phases of reopening that each state seems to be putting plans into effect. I'm in Illinois, and Illinois just released a 5-step process, and I think we're kind of between phase 1 and 2 right now. But obviously, it has to do with number of cases, availability of PPE leading up to a vaccine that's widespread available. With everything that you're doing now, how much of this is, okay, what do we need to do to open today, as well as, okay, and what are we putting in place so we know how to either ease up or go back, and kind of be nimble from that operational standpoint, or an additional level of care?
Yeah, that's a great question, because one of the benefits of kind of this small family fun center operation is, especially when we're single owned, we're basically family owned and operated, we can see things pretty real time with what's going on in the park, and then also what's going on in both the culture of our community and the media. And we've built in those safeguards so that, okay, if we do see that the race cars may not be the best socially distant activity, we can turn those off and focus on the golf course or the batting cages, and we can operationally adjust what's open and during what times of the day. As we see with the carnival rides, if it's an outdoor attraction and it's during the day and it's sunny out, the risk of exposure is pretty minimal from what we've heard. Do we halt the carnival rides, and this is just theoretically talking, do we halt the carnival rides in the evening when the sun goes down because the risk goes up? So there's those modifiers that we can have in place to keep the park as fluid as possible, and hopefully as rewarding to the guests, because the guests are going to come if they enjoy the attractions that are open, and we want to try and maximize that as much as possible.
Yeah, David, have you had conversations about, the experience may change a bit, like if people are wearing masks and things like that, and it's not going to be what they're used to. So how do you not only communicate that, as Josh was talking about earlier, but how do you create this experience that's the new normal at your fun center, at least for now?
Well, I think that's going to be answered really on that first weekend, next weekend, when we make the attempt to open. So far in our area, people have been pretty consistent about wearing the masks. You do get the occasional person, like I mentioned before, at the grocery store, but as a whole, people are pretty comfortable doing it. And it's something that is starting to be built into our subconscious that, oh, okay, I have to go outside, I have to get a mask on. So we may be very lucky in that respect. And we are putting out a survey to all of our fans on our fan group and then our Facebook page for guests to fill out, to gauge how they feel about certain restrictions and which restrictions they like to see. I know that a lot of places have put out those. Josh, I think you guys had put out one with that just gauges that temperature of, do you want to see everybody wearing a mask? Do you want to see everybody wearing gloves? Do you want to see more hand sanitizer stations? What are the things that our guests want to see around the park, and what are the things that they have no feeling towards? And really monitoring that and seeing how people respond and how those customers react when they come in. I hope that when everybody gets here that they'll be wearing a mask and they'll still be ready to have some fun. The mask shouldn't interfere with your ability to play mini golf. For batting cages, if you're in the batting cage stall doing your batting, you don't need a mask on because you're socially distant anyway. But the race cars, same thing. Race cars actually might be a little bit of a relief to wear the mask. You don't have the wind blowing in your face and bugs getting in your teeth when you're driving the race cars. But there's those activities that, yes, unfortunately, if we want to stay open and if we want to do these things, we have to make a little modification and an adjustment to it. And that's the price we pay.
Yeah. You mentioned the surveys that you're doing with your guests. Have you started to see responses come in, and are you able to share kind of some of the feedback that you've been getting?
I will definitely share it when it's supposed to launch either tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
Is when we've got the launch set up for it. So just kind of that week before we're opening.
Sure.
And as soon as I do get some of that feedback, I love to share it with you guys, because it's something that is important for everybody to see kind of what is that temperature and how people are responding to it. In our area, we are seeing a little bit more push towards businesses opening and getting back to life as we know it. If you go down 40 miles or so down the road, you're going to see it the other way. It's kind of interesting to see how regionally we've got these little pockets where people aren't ready, and you have pushback, and you'll have protests against places opening, and then down the freeway a couple of exits you'll have protests for businesses to reopen. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic here in Southern California. And if you're lucky enough to be in one of those business positive communities, I think we're going to be better off than the parks that may not be in those areas.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point of kind of walking the line between, kind of the polarized extremes of people, and also kind of what's the majority of the people who's in your demographic, who's within your local market. So the date of this recording, this is May 8th, and tell us again, what's the day that you're anticipated to reopen?
It'll be May 15th.
May 15th. Okay. So 1 week from today, and hopefully we'll be able to have you on again to be able to recap this and to be able to get that data. Yeah, we're looking forward to doing that. So any final lasting thoughts, or anything we didn't get to here?
I mean, one of the interesting things is, I was talking to Matt about it a little while ago on another call that we had. We're getting into that kind of surreal feeling for a lot of the family entertainment centers that is a little bit odd for me. I've been doing this I've been here at this park for 17 years. This is my 18th summer here. And every year right around this time, we're ramping up for end of the year class trips, and our water slides opening, and we're doing a lot of inspections, and there's a lot of energy, hiring more staff. And I've been able to replace some of that adrenaline and energy with trying to put the pieces in place to reopen the park under the reduced restrictions. So now the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks, where we would normally just be adrenaline going every day, and thousands of kids here over the course of 6 weeks. I think we usually do close to 20,000 kids over the course of 6 weeks. All of that is going to be replaced by a different atmosphere. So really learning how to manage that new emotion of not having the adrenaline there to boost you is going to be a challenge for a lot of the family entertainment centers like ours. And we've in Southern California, we actually, in a few hours, we have a group of us that are getting together, general managers and owners of family entertainment centers. And we're just going to kind of discuss and see where we're all at, and figure out, okay, who's got a message that they're putting out that is working, and how are you guys working with staff and communicating with staff to make sure that they are ready to come back, and some other topics that are kind of pertinent to what we're doing in Southern California. But it's great that we have that ability, and like we're doing now, being able to conference with each other in a way that we've never been able to do before. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we have quite a few parks here in California, and for the most part, we see each other at the conferences at Ames or at IAPA, but we don't spend too much time talking to each other during this time of year because everybody's busy. But we all have the opportunity to do that now, and it's pretty rewarding to see that everybody wants to be involved to make the core of us better.
Yeah, David, and I think that's a really great way to kind of sum up what we've been talking about, right? We've said this 1,000 times, we're all in this together, right? And I think it's important to not only remember that, that saying that we're in this together, but to reach out when you do have questions, or know that there's a community out there. And I think it's fantastic that you guys are getting together to talk about those things. So David, I want to thank you for your time today. I know that, you're making preparations to get open. And again, like we said earlier, we want to have you on again after you've opened to kind of talk about what some of those lessons were, and see what kind of things you can report back to us. But thank you again for your time today, David, and stay safe, and keep your family safe. And I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Josh. It was a pleasure.